Hey everybody, welcome back to Silvernest. I'm Elizabeth, mom of four, homeschooling on our 12th year, and we have this wonderful bookshelf journey that we've been taking through. And so I'm going to just take you through this shelf here. We have 20 different cubbies in this particular shelf that holds books that we have used, will use, want to use, want available for the kids to use, or belong to me, and this is where I keep them. We have many more bookshelves in the house, but this is the one we're going through currently, and we're just trying to encourage you to maybe find a new series or to just decide you don't want something based on seeing it in hot little hands. Disclaimers, you don't need any of this to homeschool. No, we haven't read all these books, but yes, we have read quite a few of them. Might be one of the six of us have read it, or it could be all of the kids, or it could be all six of us. So here we go. We've got my favorite French for cats. These are so funny. We have taught French twice in my homeschool. Children requested that they learn. My husband and I both studied French in high school, and then he ended up going to France for a semester in college. And this is just the funniest comic book. The food bowl, La Boule de Manger, the four cat food groups. So I end up using this for all of my kids that are taking French, but also my kids that aren't taking French. They just laugh hilariously. So if you can find these little tiny books, you can tell pretty beat up, pretty loved. All the good books are beat up and loved, right? And then we have the film version of The Journey of Natty Gann. If you've been following, you see I collect these kinds of Disney adventure books. So this just happens to be one I found somewhere. And if you hear any noises in the background, that's my cat. She's decided to come play. These are some leftover things that ended up on the shelf. Lego instructions, etc. My Fair Lady, the book version. So Pygmalion was the original, and then My Fair Lady was second. I studied theater in college, and so this is one of my favorite plays. And so I've had this since, I think, high school. Homer Price. This is a great book. Robert McCloskey is one of my favorite writers for elementary school and even some preschool stuff. And so this one here is super funny about an inventor and his creations. Great read aloud or early chapter book. Has some pictures of the different adventures that he has. So, all right, another C.S. Lewis, That Hideous Strength. Terrible cover, but again, we like to have Lewis books around for the kids when they get curious. This is the Out of Silent Planet Pearlandria trilogy, and it's not my favorite. I haven't even finished all three of them. It's definitely written for grown-ups, but my kids did want to try it, and so we just found free copies. My second copy of Caddy Woodlawn. This is my copy that I had when I was a kid, and you can tell, well loved, about a girl who is living in the frontier days and doesn't fit the conventional mold of what her mom thinks a young lady should be like, but it's those very things that help her to be able to stop a war between the local Native American tribes and her village. There's a lot about God in here. There's a really amazing circuit rider preacher that is inspiring, and she herself has to learn to grow up and get more mature while still staying true to who she is. So I love this coming of age book. Highly recommend it for anyone who is wanting a book like that or whose kids want to read another adventure like this. My daughter really enjoyed it as well. The second book is Magical Melons. We looked at that earlier on the shelf. The Trumpeter of Krakow. We have not read this, but we grabbed it in case one of my kids wanted it for world history, and so it's available. The Peterkin Papers. I tend to collect books that look like this because I trust the other books that I read from this, but this one we haven't read, and I don't think any of my kids have read it yet, but it is here in case somebody wants to. I know very little about it besides the fact that this cover felt familiar to me when I saw it in a free pile. So if you know anything about this book, let me know. I would love to know if you've read this book and if you recommend it. All right, the Swallows and Amazon series. We've got the Coot Club and the Big Six, Secret Water, and Winter Holiday, Arthur Ransom. There is a really couple of different fun. One of them I think is a short series done by the BBC, and the other one is a more modern movie, which I do not like as much as the BBC version. but really loved that show, and so wanted to grab some of them. It's about kids earlier, maybe the 30s. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, they go on holidays by getting boats and sailing around and being very independent. And I just love that, the way they solve problems and situations, and their parents trust them to go out and to live adventures that we would really struggle with letting our kids do these days, whether the world is not as safe or we perceive it as not as safe. Either of those can be valid, but they do get a lot of independence and learn a lot, and a lot of team building type stuff in there. So, and some fun hijinks. Another copy, this one is The Great Brain at the Academy. As you saw, I had a whole series of Great Brain. So this got put on the wrong shelf, as often happens. But we love The Great Brain, super funny, frontier family. The Great Brain is the older brother. The little brain is the one who writes the stories. And he just really admires his big brother, but also kind of doesn't always like him, because he is kind of tends to be a trickster and get away with stuff, but he also tends to save the day. All right. Beyond the Desert Gate. We grabbed a bunch of these historical books for my daughter's world history class this year, and this one she did read, Palestine AD 70, so we read this for 7th grade. And this was, let's see, the Jew, your brother's here. Yeah, Palestine in the 1st century. So, yep, always trying to find Christian books that would help show the time periods, but that are well written and age appropriate. So that one was a new find that we tried. Managing Your Money. This was a really good little Usborne book. We got a couple Usborne books on money management. We do a unit on money and career every single year, even if it's a small unit. And so, but in 8th grade, we take some specific time to really take the kids through some money wisdom. And we've used penny candy, all different kinds of stuff, but this is one of the ones we add to the pile. And like I said, we had a couple of Usborne, and they all really covered the same material. So this is the one the kids said was the most useful. So the final kid only has one to read. So I'm saving this for her, and probably should be on a different shelf. But again, these are real shelves, real kids. P.G. Wodehouse, Life with Jeeves. I love P.G. Wodehouse. He's super funny and British author. So high school, probably. George MacDonald is one of our favorite authors. This particular book is sort of mix where somebody edited. Yeah. So it's not necessary that he specifically rewrote this. My favorites are the children's stories that he wrote, which are on this. Some of them are on this shelf, so we will get to those, but this is one we found for free. I don't think anybody's read this copy, but I think I read it when I was first enamored with MacDonald, maybe in my 20s. Love Andrew Lang. I'm always trying to find the Andrew Lang books. These are always colored. So the Red Fairy book, the Green Fairy book, and the Lilac Fairy book are the ones we own. And he tended to collect fairy tale stories from around the world, add in some really nice illustrations. I think late 1800s, early 20th century. No, early 1900s. There we go. And yeah, but great to read aloud. And I would read these over and over and over again from my library when I was about 12, 13, 10. So I like how they're not just your basic Little Red Riding Hood, though she's in there as well. And then my copy of The Hobbit. We have probably 4 copies of The Hobbit, but this is the one that I carried around with me in my backpack all the time. I like children's literature more than adult fiction, so this was my favorite book by Tolkien, and then my husband's favorite book was the Lord of the Rings series, and so he has read them out loud to me multiple times. I love the artwork on the cover of this so much. All right, so yes, highly recommended. I think one of my kids is actually reading this year in a newer, fancier copy for 9th grade English from our Essentials in Writing curriculum. And then we have Fairy Tales by Hans Christian Andersen. This is our second Hans Christian Andersen book. His stuff is sad and a little more realistic. It makes you think a little deeper. Think he wrote the original Little Mermaid, where her feet feel like she's walking on glass and she turns into sea foam, so there's consequences of her decisions. Hans also wrote The Ugly Duckling and The Little Match Girl. So not happy stories, but very interesting stories. And then my favorite, little George MacDonald, The Light Princess. He just wrote some really fun. This is all about a princess who she can't stay on the ground. She just keeps floating into the air. And so a lot of funny, a lot of good things that just are fun to read out loud. I like The Princess and the Goblin and The Princess and Curdie as well. Not sure where those copies are, but we do own them. And then E. Nesbit, The Railway Children. I also like E. Nesbit, especially fantasy for kids. But this one is a non-fantasy. This is about a dad who is in trouble, and the kids get sent to the country with their mom, and they don't know what's wrong, and they're trying to solve it. And so there's a railway outside their house, and so they keep waving flags and making friends with the guy on the train, and the adventures that they have to figure out what's wrong with their dad, why he's not there, and then how the railway actually helps them solve their problems. So good story. Great read aloud. Highly recommend it. The Sonnets and Narrative Poems, complete non-dramatic poetry of Shakespeare. I think we've read a little bit of this for a couple of our classes. I have some kids who really enjoy Shakespeare. We specifically like the funny stuff. And I've got some poets in the family, so I like to have this around. Just things that are available for them to pull off the shelf and read if they should want. Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. Okay, earlier in one of my videos I talked about Kate Douglas Wiggin, and I couldn't remember what book she wrote, and I did put it in the comments, but Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm is the one that she wrote, and she's another wonderful heroine. Caddy Woodlawn, Anne of Green Gables, Spunk and Spark, who doesn't stay in the same boat. She is sent from her family to go live with her aunts because the aunts need help and the family's too big and they don't have money to take care of her. And it's how she is super smart and learns how to find her way in the world. Not as good, I would say, as Anne of Green Gables and such, but the neat thing about Kate Douglas Wiggin was she was one of the first people to bring Montessori to America and work with children who needed, poorer children that needed some sort of structure and younger school. Eight Cousins, nice vintage copy by Louisa May Alcott, my favorite series by her. Eight Cousins, and the second one was A Rose in Bloom. And I have multiple copies of this as well, and I just really liked this cover, so I grabbed it. And then the last is the Annotated Alice. So we've got Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, and my daughter really enjoyed reading this, and then we enjoy all the annotations. I really enjoy getting an annotated book if I can, to explain all the side things and such. And yeah, and then pairing this with like the cartoon from Disney, that kind of thing, just to compare and contrast. I love to do that. I love to take an old book. There are some movies of Rebecca Sunnybrook Farm, or The Secret Garden, so we'll read this book and then let the kids watch the show and then discuss the comparing and contrasting. Railroad Children also has a movie. I'm trying to think. Obviously, The Hobbit has a cartoon and a movie, and so yeah, P.G. Woodhouse has a TV show. Super fun. Hope those were interesting to you. Hope that they gave you some new things to be looking for, to collect, or to read. If you love fairy tales, these really are quite wonderful language, as well as like dense, thick, beautiful, rich language with a really exciting plots. Yeah, so I hope you're having a great day. Hope that this has been fun for you. And if you have any questions, again, let me know. And in the comments, just a mom trying to do stuff. This is not my business, guys. It's just for fun. And I hope that it is enjoyable for you too. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.